Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to becoming well-informed. We take a stack of information, really dig in, and pull out the key nuggets you need, minus the overwhelm.
Getting you straight to the good stuff.
Exactly. Today, we're plunging into the startup world. We're looking at insights from a YouTube video transcript featuring Mr. Bargava GCT. He's a serial entrepreneur, a mentor, and also a graduate from GCT Coimbatore.
Got it.
And our mission for you today is pretty clear. Figure out why joining a startup might be a really good career move, and crucially, how you might actually make that happen.
And I'm here to help unpack all of that. Ready when you are.
Great. Okay, let's jump in. Mr. Subramaniam's own story is, well, it's pretty interesting. GCT, mechanical engineering, graduated back in 2002.
Okay.
Did the typical corporate thing for a bit, cognizant for a couple of years, but then a real shift. He went and got a master's in statistics.
Which was pretty forward-thinking back then, especially coming from mechanical.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
And that led him into what we now call data science, though probably wasn't always called that during his time. He was in that field for years.
Right. The field itself was kind of evolving around him.
Exactly. And then about 5 years ago, he felt that, that entrepreneurial pull, jumped headfirst into startups. Now he's on his third one, really living and breathing it and mentoring others too.
It's a great example, isn't it? That engineering base didn't limit him. He adapted, learned new things like statistics, data science, and that became his launch pad for entrepreneurship. Your degree doesn't have to be your destiny.
Absolutely. And one of the first things he talks about really hit home for me. It's about self-reflection early on in your career.
Mm-hmm. Crucial.
He makes this point that, look, maybe your college isn't like a big name in the startup scene. He's open about GCT not being a primary feeder school there.
Right.
But that doesn't matter as much as you defining your own path, your own ambition. You've got to be proactive right from the start, build your own identity.
So the question for you listening is, are you thinking beyond just, your degree or your first job? He's saying don't just wait for doors to open because of where you went to school. Actively shape where you want to end up.
Okay, so let's get down to basics. What is a startup, according to him?
Yeah, the definition matters.
He defines it as basically a small group trying to solve a really specific problem for a specific audience. But the key goal is building something that's repeatable and scalable.
Repeatable and scalable, that's the core of it. So different from just a regular small business.
Exactly. He contrasts it with, say, a local shop that's been around forever, great business, serves the community, but it's not necessarily built with that explosive growth mindset.
Right. The startup is always thinking about how to grow, how to reach more people, maybe disrupt an industry or create a whole new market. That scaling part is fundamental, going from local to national or even global.
Okay, now he gets into some common worries people have about startups, busting some myths, basically.
Always good to tackle those head on.
First one, risk. The big R word.
Everyone thinks startups is huge risk.
Right. But he argues, look, the main financial risk, that's really on the founders. They're putting in the cash.
Mm-hmm.
For early employees, especially today, he says, even if the startup doesn't, hit it big.
The experience is still incredibly valuable.
Exactly. The skills you gain, the connections, it's seen as a plus on your resume now, even from a so-called failed startup.
That's a really important mindset shift, isn't it? Instead of just seeing the downside, you view it as an investment in your skills. Even a short stint can accelerate your career. It's not like the old days of find a safe job and stick with it.
Totally. Okay, myth number 2. The crazy long hours.
Yes, the startup grind narrative.
He pushes back on that. Says long hours aren't exclusive to startups. It really depends on the team, the culture, and honestly, how much you're into the work.
Right. If you're passionate and engaged, the hours can feel different. Plus, bad work-life balance exists in big companies too.
For sure. And the last one, fancy offices. Or rather, the lack thereof in early stages.
Yeah, no free gourmet lunches and nap pods on day one, maybe.
Huh? Probably not. He acknowledges that, but frames it as a trade-off.
Yeah.
You might give up some immediate perks, but you're potentially gaining much faster long-term career growth.
It's about priorities, isn't it? Are you optimizing for immediate comfort or for accelerated learning, impact, and future opportunities? Startups often deliver big time on the latter.
Okay, so myths busted. Let's talk about the upsides. Why should you consider joining a startup early on? He lists quite a few advantages.
Let's hear them.
First off, cutting-edge work. Startups have to innovate to survive. You're often working on brand new tech, maybe new patents, creating solutions for problems no one else has tackled.
So you're right at the forefront, building the next big thing, potentially, not just maintaining old systems.
Exactly. Then there's the structure, usually much flatter, less hierarchy.
Fewer layers of management.
Yeah. He even mentions, like, being able to message the CEO on WhatsApp. Decisions happen fast. If you got a good idea, people often want to help you run with it. Your voice actually gets heard.
That speed and direct access are huge. No getting bogged down in bureaucracy just to try something new. Fosters real ownership.
And speaking of ownership, responsibility.
Yeah.
It comes thick and fast.
No waiting years to get your hands on meaningful work.
Right. No gatekeepers. You're doing real stuff from day one. You're not just a tiny cog. And interestingly, you might even get to shift roles as you figure out what you like or what the company needs. It's not always rigid job descriptions.
That flexibility is amazing for growth. You're not stuck in one narrow lane. You get to explore, find your strengths.
Plus, the problems you're solving, they're usually very relevant, impacting real customers right away. You see the results of your work.
That direct feedback loop is powerful, very motivating.
And the learning is just intense. Broad exposure to tech, you learn a lot about yourself. Your communication skills get sharp really quickly.
Absolutely. It's like a pressure cooker for skill development, in a good way.
And it's not just short-term benefits. He argues the long-term career impact is often better than traditional paths. Having that startup experience makes you really valuable.
And he mentioned it's often easier to go from a startup to a big company than the other way around.
Yeah, he did suggest that. Makes sense, I guess. You gain this adaptability, this problem-solving mindset that big companies often crave.
You become more versatile.
And let's not forget the money. Potential financial impact.
Ah, yes, the potential upside.
He points out salary growth can be significantly faster over, say, 5–10 years. Gives examples where startup starting salaries can match top IT firms. But the ceiling later on, even before 30, could be much, much higher.
Of course, it varies wildly, startup to startup, role to role. But the potential for rapid compensation growth is definitely there, reflecting the value placed on key talent in high-growth environments.
He also mentioned intellectual satisfaction. For people who find traditional roles, maybe a bit.
Mind-numbing. Repetitive.
Yeah, maybe dumb and mind-numbing was his phrase. Startup work is usually challenging, engaging, and your role can be much broader than in a big company where everything's siloed.
You might wear multiple hats, especially early on.
So the overall picture, it's an environment for really intense, rapid growth with benefits that can pay off hugely down the line.
A compelling case, for sure.
Okay, so it sounds great, potentially,
Yeah.
but how do you actually get in? Especially since, as he said, most don't do the usual campus recruitment drives.
Right, the practical how-to. This is crucial.
And his number one piece of advice, loud and clear, projects. Projects are everything.
Not just grades, not just your degree. Demonstrable skills.
Exactly. That's what makes you stand out. That's what gets you noticed. He says good projects don't need to be like world-changingly ambitious.
Keep it focused.
Yeah, focused outcomes. Something you can realistically finish in about a month. And he suggests doing several projects, but initially in the same area. Build depth.
Show expertise developing in one domain. Makes sense.
And have tangible results, something people can understand. And B, original plagiarism detectors are common now, so don't even think about it. That short time frame also encourages you to just do it. Learn by doing.
And finishing the project is just step one, right? What comes next is key.
Absolutely. The right side of things, he calls it. You need to present it well, like 5–10 slides. Problem, outcome, how you did it.
Concise communication.
Put your code on GitHub. He says companies actively scan GitHub.
Essential for tech roles.
Maybe make a short YouTube video explaining it. And definitely write about it. Medium, personal blog.
Document your process. Show your thinking.
Yeah, he had that funny analogy like clearing a dirty tap. The more you write, the clearer your thinking gets, the better your ideas become. Don't just do the work. Show the work.
That showing part is so often missed. It's not just about building it. It's about communicating its value and how you build it.
Okay, next. The resume, or CV. It's critical because founders or early hires might be the ones reading it, and they only give it a few seconds initially.
5 to 10 seconds, maybe. Gotta grab them quick.
So laser focus. Pick one area, IoT, data science, whatever, and showcase maybe 5–10 relevant projects for that area.
Tailor it. Don't just list everything.
Forget departments. Grades. Show you can solve their problem. Like right now, startups usually don't have big training departments for new hires.
They need people who can contribute quickly.
Include working links, GitHub, blog, Make sure there's actual content there. Oh, and no photos on the CV? Keep it professional.
Good tip. Focus on the skills and experience.
And if you have reports or deeper dives on projects, link to those too. Basically, your resume is a targeted pitch showing immediate value.
Makes perfect sense. Now, what about coding? The I'm not a hardcore coder concern.
Yeah, he addresses that. Says coding is a tool, sure, but problem solving is more fundamental. And an engineering education, like from GCT, gives you that foundation.
But the type of coding matters, right?
Yes, industry relevance is key. C++ might not be the most sought-after skill for many startups compared to, say, web development, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, maybe Flutter.
On mobile development?
Mobile dev, databases, SQL, he called out as essential. Data analysis tools, Tableau Public is a good free starting point, he mentioned. DevOps skills are also in demand.
What about non-coding technical skills?
Content creation, writing, images, video. Data science, obviously. And newer areas like automation, Python, and JavaScript dominate there. Even no-code development platforms. And design, often overlooked, but critical.
Lots of avenues then.
The key thing, he repeats, is pick one area that interests you and build multiple projects in that space. Specialize initially.
Don't try to be a jack of all trades right away. Got it.
Now, for those thinking about traditional core engineering jobs, he shares his own story again. Mechanical engineer who ended up in data science and startups.
The real world is interdisciplinary, he emphasized.
His second startup example was fascinating cybersecurity for IoT in the oil and gas industry. It needed knowledge from mechanical, chemical, civil, CS, design, all sorts. His point is just saying I want to go core might actually limit your opportunities because so many modern problems cut across disciplines.
That really challenges the traditional silos we put disciplines into, especially in innovative spaces.
So where do you actually find these projects?
Good question. How do you get started?
Internships, he says, in real startups, not just training programs. He actually encourages reaching out directly to startups, doing work you find interesting.
Proactive outreach.
Contributing to open source projects, huge differentiator for students. And this concept he called microsauce.
Microsauce, like small software products.
Yeah, building and launching small, maybe simple, end-to-end products or sites, even if they're free or cheap. He actually hired a GCT student because they'd built and launched one, showed real initiative.
That demonstrates end-to-end thinking, building, launching, maybe even marketing it a bit. Very valuable.
And what if you're already working?
Yeah.
Maybe in a core job or something you don't love.
Can you still pivot?
He says, absolutely. The same advice applies. Start building projects in the area you want to be in. Your existing industry knowledge can actually be a plus if you combine it with the right new skills.
Leverage your domain expertise.
And he warns against spending tons of money on long training courses. Startups care more about what you can do. Projects and experience trump certificates often.
Bill, don't just buy credentials. Makes sense.
Then there's networking and professional presence. Build a real network on LinkedIn, he advises. Not so much Facebook or Instagram for this purpose.
Professional focus.
Post about your work, your learnings. Keep that portfolio sharp. And maintain strong work ethics. He gives the nod to GCT grads, generally having good ones there.
Reputation matters. And then communication.
Crucial. And often lacking, he feels. It's not just about English fluency. It's about conveying ideas clearly. Storytelling.
Storytelling about your work, you mean?
Yeah, being able to talk about yourself, your projects, in an engaging way, explaining the why and the what effectively. That's a massive differentiator for startups.
Being able to articulate your value is key everywhere, but especially when resources are tight and decisions are fast.
And finally, his core mindset advice. Create more than you consume.
Love that. Be a builder.
Yeah, actively make things, try things out. Don't just passively absorb information. Resources are all out there. He even mentioned a Telegram group for students trying to break into startups to get feedback.
That creator mindset is powerful, taking initiative instead of waiting for instructions.
So wrapping it all up, the big picture from Mr. Subramaniam is that startups offer this unique, often faster path for growth.
Lots of diverse experiences, significant potential, yeah. But it requires proactivity.
Exactly. You have to build the skills and critically showcase them through projects. It's not the only path. Traditional careers are still valid, of course.
But the startup world offers something different, exciting, dynamic, if you're willing to embrace that.
It really comes down to knowing yourself, committing to always learning, and, like you said, creating and sharing your work.
Self-awareness, learning, creating. Good mantra.
And maybe a final thought for you to chew on.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that interdisciplinary thing you mentioned, that oil and gas IoT security example.
Right, needing expertise from all over the place.
How might that kind of cross-pollination open up unexpected doors for your career, no matter what you studied initially? Maybe exploring the startup world, adopting that creator mindset.
Mm.
Maybe that's the key to unlocking some really interesting possibilities.
Something definitely worth considering. Where could your skills take you if you looked beyond the traditional boundaries?